Okay, so you want to buy a bulldozer. Find a clearing job, hire an operator, watch the dirt move. But here's the strange part. A bulldozer is one of the most brute force machines ever built, and brute force is exactly what the construction world pays a premium for when nothing else will do the job. And it's also the machine that sits on more trailers going nowhere than almost any other piece of iron in the industry. Because most contractors own one for the work they imagine they'll have rather than the work they actually do. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how that's possible, how bulldozer businesses actually make money on the inside, why owning a machine that pushes hundreds of thousands of dollars of material in a single shift still isn't enough to guarantee a profit, and why a dozing business isn't really the business most people think it is. Bulldozers come in 3 classes, and they are 3 completely different businesses. A small dozer, a Cat D3 or Komatsu D39, runs you $130,000 to $200,000 new. Residential clearing, small land development, orchard prep, slopes larger machines cannot safely navigate. Low capital entry, but you are competing against landscaping companies, tree services, and excavation contractors who own the same machine as a secondary piece and will undercut your rate just to keep their iron busy. A mid-size dozer, a Cat D6 or Komatsu D65, costs $280,000 to $450,000. Now you are in serious earthmoving. Road subgrade preparation, large site clearing, landfill operations, pipeline right-of-way clearing. The machine that shows up on every significant dirt job to do the pushing and spreading work nothing else does as efficiently. And then there's the big iron. A Cat D11 or Komatsu D475 starts at $1.5 to $2.2 million. These machines don't build roads. They move mountains, open pit mining, coal stripping, large quarry operations. A D11 pushes over 40 cubic yards in a single pass and burns 20 to 40 gallons of diesel per hour, depending on load, with full production mining pushes routinely hitting the top end. The economics at this scale have nothing in common with anything smaller, but the machine is just the start. 2 more costs nobody warns you about. The first is the undercarriage. A bulldozer does not roll on tires. It moves on steel track, and that track is consuming itself against the ground every single hour the machine operates. The undercarriage on a mid-sized dozer, the tracks, rollers, idlers, sprockets, and drive components, costs $20,000 to $40,000 to replace as a complete system on a D6 class machine. On a large mining dozer, that number climbs to $150,000 to $300,000. Undercarriage life depends heavily on what the machine is pushing through. Working in soft dirt, a track system might last 5,000 hours. Working in rock, that same system is gone in 1,500. Most new owners budget for fuel and operator wages and forget entirely about undercarriage, then face a bill that wipes out months of profit in a single repair event. The second cost is blade and ripper wear. The cutting edge on a dozer blade and the shanks on the rear ripper are sacrificial steel. They absorb the punishment so the machine itself doesn't. A full blade edge replacement on a mid-sized dozer costs $3,000 to $8,000. Ripper shanks on a large dozer run $4,000 to $12,000 per tip, depending on the rock hardness they work in. On a machine ripping hard material every day, wear parts are a line item that never stops. Now we get to the question that actually matters. Where does the money come from? Every bulldozer business runs on one number, the production rate. How many cubic yards of material can the machine move, push, or spread in an hour? And what is someone willing to pay for that? Dozer work is almost always bid by the hour or by the cubic yard moved, and the difference between those 2 pricing structures is the difference between predictable income and a financial gamble. Hourly billing is simple. You show up, the machine runs, you invoice the time. Rates for a mid-sized dozer with operator run $250 to $450 per hour, depending on region and project type. Here's what that rate has to cover. Ownership cost on a $350,000 machine, financed over 5 years, is roughly $70 per operating hour before any other expense exists. Fuel on a working mid-sized dozer runs $50 to $90 per hour at current diesel prices, the single largest operating cost after the operator. Undercarriage consumption adds $20 to $40 per hour, amortized honestly, across track life. Blade and ripper wear adds $5 to $15 more. Before $1 of wages, overhead, or taxes, you have spent $150 to $215 of that rate just keeping the machine alive. Production rate billing is where the real leverage lies and also where the real risk lives. Contract to move material at $1.50 per cubic yard, with the machine averaging 900 cubic yards per hour, and you are billing $13.50 against $400 of operating cost. Real money. But if the material turns out harder than estimated, and production drops to 400 cubic yards per hour, you are billing $600 against the same $400 of cost. The margin disappears in a single afternoon of tough ground. Experienced dozer contractors spend more time on soil investigation before bidding than on almost anything else. Because the difference between soft clay and decomposed granite is the difference between a profitable contract and a loss that takes 3 other jobs to recover from. The industry has a specific term for what separates the dozer operators who build wealth from the ones who stay broke. Utilization against the right work. Not just hours on the machine meter, but hours pushing material that the machine is actually sized and configured for. A D6 working on a residential clearing job that only needed a D4 is burning diesel, consuming undercarriage, and billing a rate that doesn't compensate for what the machine actually costs to operate. A D11 sitting on a commercial site job waiting for material to be staged is burning $1,500 of ownership costs per day while the engine idles. Machine job match is everything in this business. The operators who build real money are the ones who know exactly which machine belongs on which job and have enough variety of iron to always send the right one. Okay, so that's the math. Now the architecture. You have probably watched a dozer work and thought it looked like one machine doing one thing. That image is misleading. A productive dozing operation is a synchronized system. The dozer pushes and spreads material. An excavator or scraper handles mass haul if the job demands it. A grader finishes the surface the dozer has rough-shaped. Compaction follows the grader. Water trucks manage moisture throughout. The dozer is the raw power at the center, but it rarely produces a finished product alone. The contractors who capture real margin own as much of that surrounding chain as possible. Every piece they subcontract is margin leaving the job. Every piece they own is margin staying on the invoice. And then there is the GPS machine control revolution that has changed who wins dozer contracts in this decade. A conventional operator works from stakes and grade sheets, making judgment calls pass by pass. A GPS-equipped dozer cuts and fills to a digital design file in real time. The blade adjusts automatically, and the operator focuses entirely on production. A skilled conventional operator and a moderately skilled GPS operator finish the same surface. But the GPS machine consistently gets there in 30 to 40% fewer passes and cuts total grading time by a similar margin. Less fuel, less undercarriage wear, less time on the job. GPS blade control adds $50,000 to $100,000 to the machine cost and pays for itself before a 100,000 cubic yard job is finished. So with all this, the raw power, the production leverage, the technology edge, why do dozer business owners still lose money? The short answer is the cost structure is unforgiving. Out of every dollar of dozer revenue, 65 to 75 cents is consumed before profit exists. A well-run dozer operation earns a net margin of 15 to 25% on project work. On $2 million in annual revenue, you keep $300,000 to $500,000. Payroll is the largest number. Operators who can run large iron efficiently earn $80,000 to $120,000 a year. 3 machines need 3 full-time operators, plus a mechanic once field repairs become a daily reality. Fuel is the second largest cost and the most volatile. When diesel prices spike 20% in a quarter, every fixed-price contract signed at the old price loses margin immediately with no mechanism to recover it. Insurance covers the iron, the operators, liability for everything the machine touches, and the commercial vehicles hauling it between sites. A 3-machine operation pays $120,000 to $220,000 a year in premiums. And unlike a grader or excavator that can work through winter on the right project, a dozer doing mass earth moving in frozen ground is often simply stopped. The contracts dry up and the machines sit on the yard bleeding ownership cost into the cold. Dozer businesses collapse for many reasons, but 2 patterns repeat so consistently that almost every failure in this industry traces to one of them. Mistake 1, underestimating the ground. A contractor in Nevada bid a large site development contract based on a surface soil assessment that showed workable material throughout. 3 feet down, the site hit caliche, a near-concrete calcium carbonate layer that required blasting before any dozer could make productive progress. The blasting was not in the contract. The production rate dropped 80%. The job that was supposed to run 4 months ran 9. The overhead burned through the margin on 2 other projects simultaneously. The company sold 2 machines at auction to close the year. In dozing, the thing you cannot see underground is the thing that kills you. Mistake 2, the wrong machine for the market. In 2015, a contractor in the Southeast invested $1.4 million in a D11 mining dozer to pursue large quarry contracts in the region. The quarry work materialized on one site, but the machine was too large and too expensive to operate on the commercial construction jobs that filled the calendar between mining contracts. It burned $40,000 a month in ownership cost, whether it worked or not. On the months it sat waiting for the next quarry assignment, that money came directly out of the business. Matching machine scale to the actual work in your market is not good management. It is survival. Step back for a second. The economics of bulldozing are as raw as the machine itself. The demand is permanent. Land gets cleared, roads get built, mines get opened. Dams get constructed, airports get expanded. Every single one of those projects needs a dozer somewhere in the process. And there is no machine that does what a dozer does more efficiently when the job calls for raw pushing power. And yet the business built on that permanent demand is one of the most cash-intensive and operationally demanding in construction. The machine is expensive, the fuel cost is enormous, the undercarriage consumption is relentless, and every fixed-price contract is a bet placed against ground conditions that may not be what they appear. The demand is certain. The margin on meeting it is not. Time to pull it all together. How much money do you actually make if you do this right? 2 scenarios, real numbers. Scenario 1, $150,000, and a small dozer in a growing residential market. Annual revenue clearing lots, preparing pads, and doing light land development work, $220,000 to $300,000 a year. After all operating costs, loan service, insurance, and your own operator wages, real profit around $50,000 to $80,000 per year. Payback on the machine, 2 to 3 years. Straightforward and a legitimate base to build from. Scenario 2, a 3-machine commercial operation targeting large site work and infrastructure. 1 large dozer, 2 mid-sized dozers, GPS grade control across the fleet. Total iron investments around $1.8 million. Annual revenue on commercial site contracts and earth-moving work, $3.5 to $5 million. Net profit after everything, $400,000 to $900,000 a year, assuming utilization above 70% and ground conditions that match your estimates. And here's what almost every outsider misses at fleet scale. The contractors who dominate large earth-moving markets are not the ones who own the biggest machines. They are the ones who have won the trust of the general contractors who hire them repeatedly. A dozer subcontractor with a reputation for hitting production targets and never surprising anyone with a change order wins work at better margins than any competitor with newer iron and a shorter track record. If you build that reputation and survive the debt cycles and the bad ground and the fuel price swings long enough, the rewards are real. Granite Construction, one of the largest heavy civil contractors in the United States, operates hundreds of machines across dozens of states and generates over $4 billion in annual revenue. They did not get there by owning the most expensive iron. They got there by understanding their cost per cubic yard better than every competitor on every bid they ever submitted. So if you decide to buy a bulldozer, just remember the one rule that every contractor who survives long enough eventually learns. The blade pushes material, but the number that actually moves your business forward is what that material cost you per yard. Push. Know that number precisely, and you have a business. Guess at it, and you are just burning diesel on borrowed time.